Sales has never been tougher. Budgets are being slashed, every cent is being scrutinized. Deals that used to close in weeks now take months to close. And when you finally get in front of the buyer, it's never just a friendly chat, it's a hard sales conversation.
You got to diagnose the situation. So just because they said they need you to cut the price doesn't mean they need you to cut the price.
Chris Voss is a former lead international hostage negotiator for the FBI and the best-selling author of Never Split the Difference. He has faced conversations where the stakes were literally life or death, and the same principles he used there are exactly what you need when the stakes are your deals, your revenue, or your sales career.
So first of all, you got to find out if you're being tested. Second, you got to find out whether or not you're the fool in the game. And third, you got to find out what's wrong with the value.
In this episode, Chris shares how to stay calm under pressure.
So gaining an awareness first, and then secondly, working on changing it.
How to uncover what the counterpart really wants.
So the first thing you do is you simply say, sounds like the value's not there for you.
And how to turn a no into a start of a real negotiation.
That most of your questions, especially at the opening of the cold outreach, is you're trying to elicit a yes, and what you want to do is elicit a no to move things forward.
If you want to know how to succeed in hard sales conversations, especially when budgets are tight and every decision is under the microscope, this is for you. Let's go. People listening to this are most likely salespeople or sales leaders selling some IT tech or software technology. And the one thing they all have usually in common these days is that buyers are under pressure to, cut budgets.
Right.
And the one line that salespeople hear all too often these days is, hey, we love your product, but you need to cut the price.
Right.
So what's your perspective on which type of mindset do you really need to succeed in such an economy, but also in such a situation?
Yeah, the mindset that you have to succeed is you got to diagnose the situation. Now, they might be willing to pay you full price, but they're taught to ask. So just because they said they need you to cut the price doesn't mean they need you to cut the price. You got to find out if they're testing you. Then it's never an issue of price, ever. If they're going to buy from you, and they may be using you as a comparison bid. It's about what you're delivering, or to use a phrase that people lose track of, value, the word value. What's the value? If the price is too high, it's not that the price is too high, it's what they're getting for that price needs adjustment. So again, if I were to go to a clothing store and the suit didn't fit, if they give me a discount on the suit, should I buy it? It still doesn't fit. It doesn't matter what the price is. The value isn't there. It's not a good fit. So first of all, you got to find out if you're being tested because they are told to test you. Second, you got to find out whether or not you're the fool in the game, whether you're the comparison who's never going to get the job. And third, you got to find out what's wrong with the value. So the first thing you do is you simply say, sounds like the value's not there for you. That's begins, their response is the diagnosis. How they respond. You probably need to mirror. The first thing was a label, sounds like the value's not there for you. Whatever they say after that, you mirror it. Repeat the last 1 to 3 words of what they said. And actually listen. Don't have what we call happy ears, where you're only happy to hear the stuff that you hope to hear. Can't have happy ears. You have to actually listen. Their answer will tell you, are they simply testing you? They might say, no, you know what, as a matter of fact, the price isn't bad, the value's good, I was just told I got to get a discount. Okay, so if the value's good, you're not discounting it. They want to buy what they want to buy fits, and then you can say something to the effect, you mirror it. So you say, you were just told to ask? That's mirroring. Bring it out in the open. If they still persist, the value's there, they're going to buy from you, and they still persist, then you say something to the effect of, how am I supposed to be your long-term provider of value if you cut my price? Now you're changing the conversation from short-term to long-term, which is always what people get caught up in. They're really worried about the short-term profit. But long-term, if you are delivering what they want, replacing you is expensive. And how am I supposed to be your long-term provider if you cut the price? They start thinking, oh, wow. If I drive them away and I got to replace them, how long did it take me to find them in the first place? It's like a really good employee or a really good car mechanic. These are hard to find, and they're very expensive to replace. And you have to get them to start thinking about that. But you got to get to that point first. It's entirely possible that you are the competing bid. If you're the competing bid, they're going to be overly focused on price. And when you say, sounds like the value's not there for you, if that doesn't trigger a value conversation in some way, if they're only focused on price, you are the competing bid. And it's not really a competition. They've already decided to go with the other company. They want to get a lower price from you to drive the other company down. That's all. The only reason why they need a lower price from you. You're not getting the business.
Yeah.
You're just causing a problem for somebody else, which means you shouldn't lower your price.
Yeah.
Now, if you're the favorite and not the fool, you shouldn't lower your price because you're the favorite. And you want to maintain a long-term relationship with them. And the question about being a long-term provider reminds you that you're in it for the long term with them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, of course they're going to challenge you on price. You have to diagnose the situation, find out which of those three situations it is, and that's how you diagnose.
What I really love about mirroring, basically, it's labeling and mirroring is basically both what you do, right? With that.
Those are the 1-2 punches, the companion skills that no matter who you face on the other side of the table, every one of them likes labels and mirrors.
Yeah. And I think in a sales situation, it throws the ball back to the other person. Because
good point.
You don't need to justify yourself. You don't justify the price. But our price is so great and our product is so great. But now the ball is on the other side again. You can have it. Here it is.
Yeah.
Play with it.
Yes.
And it almost forces the other side either to, hey, no, I'm really interested, but we still need to speak about the price. Or, yeah, you are right. We don't see the value and actually we don't have budget and we have this other vendor, so it doesn't make sense to continue the conversation. And then you get you get an honest answer. If you give people the room to give you an honest answer, you will get an honest answer.
Really well said. Yeah, and this is just giving them the room to give you an honest answer.
Yeah. Still, I think to do that, I think it would most salespeople fail not knowing what to do or with the right strategy, but they have the wrong mindset or maybe the self-confidence is lacking. Because what I often see is that salespeople see negotiations or tough sales interactions or even meetings as type of conflict. It's a debate. Mm-hmm. That's why they shy away from it, and they are willing to take whatever is offered from the other side, or maybe give discounts. And I think what stops us very often is kind of fear of whatever. So how do you coach people, not just salespeople, to avoid this kind of a desperation? We do everything for you, just sign the contract kind of. How do you avoid desperation with salespeople?
Practice, for lack of a better term. We say small stakes practice for high stakes results. So you begin to look for interactions in your everyday life, and they're everywhere, to practice the skills, to label and mirror people, like with everybody. Because you got to get comfortable with labels and mirrors. And you got to get beyond being scripted. A lot of salespeople love scripts. I got a script, and then I got all these different possibilities laid out, and it's this great roadmap in front of me. If they say this, I say that. If they say this, I say that. And you feel very safe and comfortable in that script. And you miss opportunities. The other side doesn't feel listened to, which is offensive. You don't mean it, but you deteriorate your relationship by not being able to actually listen. So you practice the skills in your everyday life with your significant other, with your parents, with your children, with your friends, with people at the grocery store, with the Lyft driver, with the people in the airport, like everywhere. Use the skills all over the place. And use them if you want directions. Use the skills to get directions. And start by stop saying to people, how are you today? Because if you count the number of times you say, how are you today to somebody, it might be 7, 8 times. Instead, take a look at them and label how they look. Seems like you're having a good day. You seem tired. Seems like something's on your mind. You don't try to change how they're feeling. You label what you see. Example, I sit down with a business colleague. We're teaching a course, and 3 of us are the instructors from 3 separate companies. The companies are collaborating. One of them is a very analytical guy. His name is Nick. I sit down on the stage with him about 20 minutes before the teaching is supposed to start. And he's sitting in a chair, and I just look at him. I haven't seen Nick in months. And I just look at him, and I just kind of look at him for a second. And then I say, you seem centered. Because I'm trying to get a feel for where he is. Is he happy? Is he distracted? Is he stressed? It's just an observation.
Yeah.
I could have said, how are you? I looked at him and I said, you seem centered. And he hesitates for a second. And he says, yeah, I just got back from the mountain. Last time we saw each other, I hadn't been up on a mountain in a long time. I've been really busy. And when I'm up on the mountain, I'm meditating, I'm practicing. He's into a lot of martial arts, and his teachers are there. And so he goes up there to get away and to relax, and he loves his martial arts. I get all this information. Instead of saying, how are you? If I'd have said, how are you to him, he probably said, fine, how are you? Instead, I label him, you seem centered. I get a ton of information, which I want to get. I want him to feel connected to me, but I'm practicing too. I got to practice. Everybody's got to practice. So you practice by your labels and mirrors by whoever you encounter. And then when it's time to put together a strategy, when you're challenged over price, you've been labeling and mirroring and listening. All of the above so that you do really well in the negotiation with a customer who's challenging your price.
What really worked well for me after I read your book, I think it's a long time ago, many, many years. I've been sales rep 15 years myself. And instead
50 years?
15, sorry.
15. Yeah, I was going to say, I'm going to take the vitamins you're taking.
Yeah, I bring it to you from Austria next time. It's in your box there. No, just joking. The tactic that worked very well for me is, for example, you're showing to your customer your software, you're demonstrating your product, you're demonstrating your solution.
Right.
And I'm sitting in a demonstration, I'm demoing my product, and I have the feeling, the customer is kind of not really into it, he doesn't seem to be kind of impressed. So instead of saying, hey, how do you like the software, how do you like the product, I say instead, it seems to me that you're not overly impressed with what I'm showing you.
Well done.
Yeah, and it opens up a room for an honest discussion of what he's missing out on, why he's not impressed, or maybe my observation is wrong and he will justify himself. No, I'm just very tentative and maybe it could come across that I'm not interested. So it's a fantastic strategy in every sales encounter. You can use it, yeah?
Yeah, well done on your part, because so many salespeople would be afraid to say that.
Yeah.
You know, they'd be horrified. Oh my God, he's not interested. I got to talk some more. I got to talk louder. I got to move around more. I got to wave my arms.
Exactly.
But you just observe what's going on. And as you said before, you gave them the room to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And then they were.
Yeah.
Yeah, well done.
And you said something before. You said practice it in everyday like encounters.
Right.
So kind of practice your out of the comfort zone muscle, right?
Yeah.
I think it needs to be practiced. Like negotiations is a perishable skill.
Yes.
Also, your out of comfort zone muscle is kind of needs to be practiced. It seems to me when I hear you speak, or I see you on podcasts or on videos or on the stage, that for you it comes so natural to be out of the comfort zone, to be that honest. Have you been that way all the time, or have you done something to learn it yourself, to be that bold also in...
Everybody can learn that. That's a crazy thing. You have to, as soon as you practice it, and make yourself intentionally uncomfortable, it gets easy. Now, it doesn't get easy right away. It gets easy a little at a time. I'm going to modify things I've heard a couple of people say. A big fan of Cody Sanchez. She's a businesswoman, phenomenal influencer, podcaster, great business thought. She says, choose your heart. She says, it's hard to be successful. It's hard to be broke. Choose your heart. And I realize then if the dynamic of habits, or any habit to establish, is always hard at first. And then eventually it becomes easy. David Goggins, stay hard. Goggins gets up and he runs 5,000 miles. You know, there was a meme I saw a long time ago. Elon Musk is landing on Mars, and they get there and Goggins is already there running around. You know, and we like, how does he do that? You know, how does he? It would be hard for him not to do it. What Goggins does for Goggins is easy. It would be hard for him to sit on a couch and stuff his face with donuts, watching TV, complaining, which at one point in time in his life, that's what he did. But he chose his heart, and now his heart is easy. What does that have to do with what you just asked? As soon as you choose to start making yourself uncomfortable, the first time it's horrifying and it feels terrible. Then the third, fourth, fifth time you start going like, this ain't bad. And as a matter of fact, this is fun. And so this feeling of discomfort is this specter that waits for us in the dark. And then you start going into the dark, and the dark isn't that bad.
Yeah.
You know, you get used to it. You walk around in the dark. You see stuff. It no longer bothers you. So as soon as you choose discomfort on a regular basis, then suddenly it becomes very easy. And I think I've always looked at it as an adventure. I saw a bumper sticker a long time ago. What's the difference between adventure and ordeal? Attitude. And as soon as you look at it as an adventure, then it's fun.
I've chosen, I think 3 years ago, to do a cold shower every morning.
Yeah, all right.
So that's that deliberate decision to get out of the comfort zone every day. And it's, you know, it's the same, right? It gets easier every time you do it. You know, the first 2 or 3 times, but it never gets easy. I never wake up and say, hey, I'm really looking forward to get the cold shower. But I know that the reward afterwards will be great if I've done it, right?
When you start thinking about how you're going to feel afterwards, that helps my decision on a lot of stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, you know, cold shower. And I start thinking about how invigorated I'm going to feel afterwards. I can get in a cold shower.
Yeah.
Flip side, big stack of pancakes with syrup on them. I look at those and I think about how good it's going to feel to eat them. And then I think about how awful I'm going to feel when I hit that sugar crash and all those carbs hit my system, and I'm going to feel lousy the rest of the day. If I can think about something bad that's in a moment's going to feel so good, but I'll feel horrible afterwards, if I imagine what it's like to feel horrible, it's easy for me to say no. So it's all in how your vision in your head is playing out.
Exactly.
Before we continue with the episode, there is one important tip for you.
If you're listening to this, you probably want to negotiate better, communicate smarter, and close deals faster. And to do all of that, you need to get more feedback. And to become a negotiation expert, you should be using a meeting recording tool that gives you instant feedback on your sales calls. And that's exactly where our partner Kickscale comes in. Kickscale helps sales teams measurably improve their conversations with a platform that records and analyzes your customer calls, provides structured feedback, and shows where you can make your conversations even stronger. In just a few minutes, you will see which questions you asked, where you built trust, and when you might have mentioned the price too early. The best sales teams worldwide improve their sales conversations this way, based on data and not just gut feeling. And with the link down below in the show notes, you will get an exclusive free version with 50 recorded and analyzed meetings from Kickscale. So get your Kickscale access down below with the link. And now let's get back to the episode. Do you have any daily, weekly routine to get out the comfort zone?
That's a good question. I think I try to stay out there as much as possible. I'm not sure how often I find myself avoiding stuff. And I probably do. And I have to rethink the chatter in my head to get myself to do it. Like, not necessarily comfort zone, but the stuff I hate doing my finances. And I hate working on my taxes, any of that stuff, and anything I'm procrastinating on. So I'll have to change the chatter in my head. So I'll say, well, this is a privilege to do this. I don't have to do it. I get to do it. So, I've been attacking my comfort zone for a long time. So as a general rule, it's not that bad for me.
Yeah.
And that's why it's not that bad for me.
Yeah.
I had a lot of people, a confrontation is out of the comfort zone. And I feel bad when I avoid them. I know how bad I'm going to feel if I avoid a confrontation. Now, I'm also going to feel bad if I'm mean about it. That what you want to do is have a confrontation and be kind simultaneously.
Yeah.
But I know how bad I'm going to feel if I avoid it. We had a disagreement with a car was supposed to pick us up, my girlfriend Wendy and I, when we landed at JFK here in New York City just last week. And the guy was giving us a hard time. And then he got mad at us again when he dropped us off. And yeah, I did confront him.
Okay.
I didn't use any profanity, but I stepped closer to him, and then I pointed out the conversation we'd had previously.
Yeah.
So, because if I hadn't, I'd have. That's the kind of thing that I don't feel good about myself if I avoid confrontation.
Yeah. I think that you mentioned before that it becomes easy once you do it regularly, and once I think it becomes part also of your identity. That
Good
you
point,
identify yourself with, hey, I'm the person that is honest and that is bold and that is getting out of the comfort zone and asking the tough questions also to my customers or negotiation partners.
Yep.
I think confidence comes also a long way. There's a great quote I heard from one of my coaches: you never rise to the occasion, but you always fall back to the level of your preparation. And specifically with tough conversations, I think a lot of them are won or lost long time before they start sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah. And in sales or in life, we jump on conversations thinking, hey, I will say whatever comes to my mind in that very conversation. Like for this podcast with you, I was thinking, hey, what do I want to get out of this conversation with you, right? So I practiced. I tried to say, hey, I'm meeting Chris, so what will I say? What will I ask him? The question I have for you is, what is a smart preparation for a tough meeting or conversation looking like for you that can be applied also like in a business context?
Well, I've used the skills enough that I really rely on them. So for me, at this point, because I constantly practice the skills, and without the practice, you can't get there. You lose it. Like if I don't practice the skills, I lose them. I got a way of asking for an upgrade to a hotel suite. And in the pandemic, the first time I walked into a hotel after having not walked into one for a year, I'm getting ready to go in. I realized I hadn't been practicing. And I actually started into the hotel lobby. I hadn't got my practice in. So I imagined myself failing. I was scared. I hadn't practiced the skills. I actually went back out of the hotel and I walked back and forth to psych myself up and go in and try it again. Now, your question is preparation. It's mindset. Mm-hmm. And it's not a mindset that I will succeed or fail. The critical issue is, am I in a positive mindset? Even playful. And I've found that to have a playful mindset is a superpower. Mm-hmm. The playful tone of voice is actually more powerful than the late night FM DJ voice. Because you're 31% smarter in a positive frame of mind. So if you're playful, you're smarter and you can call on the skills more quickly. You can sense the empathy that needs to be used with the other side more quickly. So you're smarter, you're more agile, you're more adept at the skills when you're playful. Emotions are contagious for neuroscience reasons, not for psychological reasons. So if I'm playful and upbeat, you're going to start to be playful and upbeat too. Mm. And then you'll be more collaborative with me. There's a phrase, never be mean to someone who could hurt you by doing nothing. Mm. So if I'm mean to you, you're going to be in a bad mood. You're not going to help me. If I'm playful with you, you're going to be in a good mood. You could probably help me. Example, I owed a medical bill probably about 2 years ago. And I pay my bills. But as I told you before, I don't like messing around with my finances, and sometimes I procrastinate. And since I know I'm going to pay, I don't feel bad if I don't pay right away. And I'm looking at a medical bill for about $3,800, and it's 90 days old. And I'm like, okay, I just got to pay this. I've just been procrastinating. It's about 10 o'clock in the morning, and I had just had my morning coffee. So I'm upbeat, I'm playful. I'm thinking I'm ready to have a little fun. So I call him on the phone, and I think, what the heck? 10% discount is normally a throwaway. If I'm nice, it's a pretty good chance they'll at least toss me 10% if I pay it in full right now, especially since it's 90 days old. They're starting to worry about collection. So I call through the phone tree, and I get their collections department. And the woman answers the phone, and she just says, hello. Not how may I help you, how are you today, just like a straight dead hello. Now, from her end, she's used to people calling and whining and complaining, I don't know this is not fair, blah, 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 excuses. She answers the phone, she says hello, and I go, I owe you money. Okay. And her playful, but say, I owe the money? That's what she's going to say. That's what's in her. If I start talking about my bill right away in her brain, she's going to say, yes, but you owe us money. So I'm saying what's in her head in a real playful mood. And she says, well, give me your customer ID. She's no longer, she's nicer than the hello. And she looks it up and she comes back at me. She says, oh, yes, you do. Just like that. Now she's playful. And so I continue the joke. Playfully, I say, I need to pay you guys for you come to my house and drag me out into the street. And she says, oh, yes, and we will do that too, because I know in debt collections, if it gets bad enough, they have a sheriff's auction. They come to your house, they take your possessions, and the sheriff auctions them off to pay the debt. And if she's in debt collection, she's been in it long enough where they've actually done that. Now this girl's laughing with me. I'm the only person that's been playful with her. I end up getting an 80% discount. 80. 80. Your original question, preparation. First, I practice the skills enough that I rely on them. I practice empathy enough that based on the circumstances, I know what you're saying to yourself. about me. If you're in debt collections, what you're saying to yourself about me is like, hey, pal, you owe us money and you better pay because we're going to come drag you out of your house if you don't. So I say that, and now I'm playful. And she changes completely. But it was all about learn the skills, the preparation is mindset. And it wasn't success or failure. It was just, I'm going to call this girl on them. It turned out to be a young lady. And I'm just going to have fun and see what happens. And it's amazing how many great things happen with just that.
I wouldn't even say it's mindset. I would even label it state management, that you deliberately decide, I will be in a playful state, in a creative state, in a positive state. Because often we enter those conversations, damn it, I don't want to have this conversation and I don't want to have this call and it will be awkward and I just want to avoid it and I want to procrastinate it. And you enter the conversation already with this negative state.
Yes.
And you mentioned like this mirroring of neurons, right? We mirror the emotions of other people. I think positive emotions are mirrored much more intensely than negative emotions. So if I decide, hey, today I'm meeting Chris, I'll be super pumped up. Maybe he will be pumped up as well.
So
it will probably work better, right?
Yeah.
The question is how to train yourself or how to get yourself into that playful state. How do you do that? Like just visualize it or say to yourself, I'm playful, playful, playful. What would you do to get into a playful state?
Well, that's a great question because there's some cliche things, and then I think there's a few things that I feel I've recently uncovered. So the cliche things, how do you start your day? I have a gratitude exercise I start my day with. And a lot of people do. Whatever it takes, it could be a gratitude exercise, it could be prayer, it could be meditation, it could be physical exercise. Management of state requires paying attention to the 5 pillars of health, which are diet, exercise, nutrition, spirituality, and relationships. Those are your pillars. Those are your starting points. Now, it's essential. Those are essential and inadequate. What's the next? I hear about a book called Chatter, our mental chatter. And we all know that, I don't know what the number is. You have 50,000 conversations in your head a day, and there's a constant inner chatter going on, and the majority of the conversations are repetitive. And I thought to myself, what if I get behind those conversations? What if I start changing the conversation? My gratitude exercise is in the morning, but if I get the chatter going like, this person annoys me. Oh, I got to do my taxes again. That's negative chatter. Now, simple but very, very difficult to first become aware of your chatter. If you're in a bad mood, your chatter's negative. There's no way around that. So gaining an awareness first, and then secondly, working on changing it. Both of those are hard, but that's the way your state management. That's how you manage your state throughout the day.
Yeah.
And they can be little phrases. This is either happening to me or for me. Oh, I didn't invent that phrase. I've heard a lot of people use it before. This is a success problem. Thank God I got to pay all these taxes. Because if I wasn't making a lot of money, I wouldn't have to pay taxes. I wish, 10 years ago, I wished I had the problems I have now. This is a success problem. I got to make a difficult choice between 2 great opportunities. I remember when I didn't have any opportunities. This is a great dilemma to be in. It's reframing the conversation in your head. The conversation in your head is ongoing all the time. That chatter never stops. So become aware of it and then work on turning it positive. That is an ongoing battle for me, but absolutely worth it.
It doesn't seem like it's a big battle for you.
All right. Well, what's that? They say the duck analogy. The duck's really calm on the above the water, and below the water is paddling like crazy, right?
Okay. Yeah. Maybe it's the same for me. Yeah. I mean, for what works best for me is I learned it from one of my biggest indirect mentors, which is Tony Robbins.
I figured that, you were a Robbins fan when you talked about managing state, because that's definitely, his state changes. Yeah?
That's his kind of wording. And what I like to do is I like to put on some music, some energetic, upbeat music, and then just walking in my living room like I would be playful. How would I walk if I'm playful? What I would do if I
Very
would,
good, yeah.
And I use my body, because for me personally, I think everyone needs to figure out for himself what works best. If it's more from the mental visualization and affirmation point of view, or from the using your body to change your state. I think you should do both. Then maybe it works even.
All that stuff works, and then you play with it, and either you find what works best for you, or maybe what works best in a moment.
Exactly.
And the music is huge. I think I heard an indicator that mankind may have had music before we had language. I thought I heard that, but it's such a universal thing and such a universal influence. Doesn't matter, gender, ethnicity, religion, geography, diet, any of that stuff. Mankind responds to music, and you can use that.
Yeah.
Well done.
Thanks. Now, I think preparation is one thing, and it's a big thing, preparation, how you get into a meeting, how you get into a conversation. Very often I feel salespeople think, hey, now the customer's in the room, the customer's entered the meeting, now he has all the power. Oh my God, I need to perform now. Like he is now in the driving seat because, I want it more than the customer. And a lot of listeners here are doing cold outreach. They are maybe cold calling on people. And in that moment, of course, you want it more than the customer because the customer doesn't see the value of your product yet.
Right.
So how would you, let's say, build trust in a situation where you are in a position where you want the deal or something more than the other side?
All right, so there's a couple different things you're talking about and a couple different circumstances. So you talked about a cold outreach, and then you talked about once you got into the meeting.
Yeah.
Where do you want to start?
I think in the meeting.
Okay, in the meeting. So if they're talking to you at all, they have a reason. We used to say, if they're talking to you, you got leverage. I don't think in terms of leverage anymore. I only think of influence. Influence is a much better way to think about things. Leverage is antiquated. It's physics before Einstein was Newtonian. Leverage is Newtonian. Physics after Einstein, it's quantum physics. Influence is quantum physics. If they're talking to you, there's a reason. What you got to do is find out what that reason is, respectfully. And you can even say, open it up. Seems like you got a reason for meeting with us today. That's a label that lands like a question. Questions make people feel questioned, which diminishes rapport. Questions also cause people to think about the answer before they give it. You could say, what's your reason for meeting with us today? They'll filter that answer before they give it to you. Seems like you have a reason for meeting with us today. Gets you a less filtered answer. It also doesn't make them feel questioned, which increases rather than diminishes rapport. So start with a label and judge the reaction. Probably mirror whatever they say. There's a really good chance you're going to get right down to it. When our protocol, when companies call us and they start with, how are you today? And my salespeople are taught to say, sounds like you got a reason for calling. One of two things happen. They get right to it. 2/3 of the time. 1/3 of the time, they say, I do, but first, I really want to know, how are you today? And okay, cool. We'll talk about, it's a good day, it's a bad day, whatever. For that exchange of pleasantries is important to about 1/3 of the people out. 2/3 want to get down to business right away.
Yeah.
Now, if you always respond, if they say, how are you today? You go like, I'm feeling good. Hey, how are you? 2 out of 3 people find that a waste of time. Now, the one person that loves it, everybody remembers how much the one person loved it. So they miss how often they're in a minority. So whatever interaction it is if you say, seems like you got a reason for meeting with us, it feels respectful to the other side. And you will get right down to it more quickly.
Yeah, but you immediately cut through the chase and speak about what matters to the customer, and you get like also an honest answer again. Hey, to be honest, the reason for the meeting today is this or that, or hey, actually, to be honest, I'm not that into that deal or not into that offer or whatever, and then you can speak about about the pink elephant in the room without wasting too much time about pleasantries and stuff.
Yeah, and they might even say, the only reason I'm talking to you is because my boss told me to.
Yeah.
That's valuable information, which you need to have to proceed. And so, you get it out of them really quickly.
How would you transport it now into the cold outreach situation? Because it's a different scenario, you're right.
The cold outreach situation is probably the most difficult to do in sales overall. And we've flirted with the idea and we've abandoned it because it's such a low percentage. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean that somebody listening to this is in that job and has to do it. So the first thing is to be able to switch from yes to no. You got to learn that most of your questions, especially at the opening of the cold outreach, is you're trying to elicit a yes to move things forward. And what you want to do is elicit a no to move things forward. Just did an interview. We have this TV show called That's Right. And I interview a series of people where they learn the black swan skills and they improved their business so much that through the use of the skills and then ultimately getting a that's right, they're making a lot of money. One of the guys does cold calling. He's an executive recruiter. And he recruits executives who are not looking for jobs. Because the most talented people are not looking for work. They're really well paid. They're really happy where they are. And he's hired to identify somebody who's really good and make the approach. So it's a cold call. That cold call would normally start with, would you be interested in hearing about an opportunity where you make more money and enjoy your job more? And it typically took him 300 calls to get 3 candidates. That first question is hoping to elicit a yes. Typical sales strategy. He changes his strategy to elicit a no. Are you against hearing about a job where you would make more money and possibly be happier? He went from 300 calls to get 3 to 75 calls to get 3. Cold call, massive jump, switching from eliciting yes to move things forward to eliciting no to move things forward. So if you got to do cold calls, you'll increase your win rate by switching from yes to no. Hearing yes, or hearing no, instead of hearing yes to move things forward, which is, it starts with, instead of would you like, are you against?
Yeah, it's because it gives the other person the feeling of control. Hey, I said no, yep. I'm a driving seat, Or would it be a bad? Is it a bad idea to do X, Y, Z?
Right,
or
exactly.
Would it be a bad idea, or is it a bad time to do whatever? Right? You elicit no, and then the other person has the sense of control, and we want to be in control. We don't want to have the feeling that, oh wow, someone is manipulating me into some type of offer, deal, or appointment, whatever. So then no, you call it no-oriented questions.
No-oriented questions.
No-oriented questions. Yeah. Okay. There are so many things I want to speak with you about, but I think the main part is still when we are in this environment where budgets are cut and customers demand discounts, and even loyal customers that are with you for 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 years say, hey, look, we need to cut budgets. You need to offer me a discount here. I think we naturally somehow, I don't know why, but you human beings are wired to justify price and value with rational arguments, with facts.
Right.
When I read your book, when I see you on stage, when I see you on the Jay Shetty podcast or whatever, it seems to me that your teachings are more focused on the how, on the delivery, on the tone.
Right.
Can you help us understand, walk us through why the how is more important than the what you say and how to coach yourself on that?
Well, your tone of voice and every word out of your mouth has a tone. Your tone of voice begins to trigger neurochemical changes in the other side right away. Positive tone of voice begins to trigger positive changes. This is a neural chemical reaction, not a psychological reaction. But it's hard science. It's neuroscience. So I can begin to change your mood based on my tone of voice right away. Am I collaborative? Am I curious? Am I non-threatening? Does it feel good to talk with me? How it feels to talk with me either makes me a threat or removes me as a threat. As soon as I remove myself as a threat, you're more likely to be collaborative. You're more likely to share your problems with me and collaborate with me on the answers. Now, people that are under tremendous price pressure, again, that's always a short-term issue. And if you change it into long-term success, it becomes different because they've got a negotiation with their boss. They're under price pressure. There's a separate negotiation. If you don't cut the price, you have to equip them to go back to their boss and justify it to, not because they like you, not because you've always been for them in the past, because that's the past. People are now worried about their future. You could have been great to me in the past. If I get fired tomorrow, it doesn't matter how you helped me in the past. What's going to keep me from getting fired tomorrow? Long-term profitability. If you as a supplier are difficult to replace and expensive, how expensive is it going to be to replace you? How long is it going to take them to find somebody? If your product is a fit, what you're giving them, you got to tailor it to them. And if they have a real problem with price, it's not the price. It's what's being delivered and how. And you got to find out how they want it delivered. They may want to have it delivered in a way that actually makes you more money. They may want to have it delivered in a way that actually provides more security and stability for them. And so that's why you gotta explore the value issue, because if what they want would make it more profitable to you, but you don't know what it is if they don't tell you. So I'm going to use your phrase again: create the space for them to be honest with you. And then if they go back to the boss, then they're going to say, look, do you realize how expensive it's going to be to replace them? Do you remember how long it took us to find them in the first place? We went for 6 months without a vendor. What's going to happen to us if we go for another 6 months without searching for their replacement? What happens to us if their replacement is worse than they are? Then we got another 6 months on top of that. Now all of a sudden, the person you work for, that they work for, is worried about all these losses. No. We got to keep them. We can't afford to lose them. You know, your job was to ask for a discount. You asked it, but they're so valuable to us, we have to have the long-term business. I was talking 2-3 years ago to a guy who used to work for SpaceX. And SpaceX is a tough buyer. They're either going to push you down on price, they're going to push you down on terms, or they're going to buy you. Then if they buy you, you don't have to worry about it anymore because they're the boss. And SpaceX, they buy a lot of companies. But the particular vendor they're looking for, he's got a mandate to get a discount from the vendor. And it is a massive discount. Now, he knows if he gets this discount, it's going to put him out of business. So what he does is he goes to them and he starts talking to them about the long-term value if SpaceX is signed on as a customer for the next 10 years as opposed to just the next 12 months. And as soon as they started talking about a long-term relationship, his boss eased up on him on the discount they were demanding of him, because he went back to him and said, I got these guys locked in. Replacing them is going to be very expensive. Remember how long it took us to get them in the first place? And so as soon as they shifted into a long-term conversation, the discount that he was demanding was far less. And then because he was promising a long-term guarantee of SpaceX being a long-term customer, they actually didn't mind giving the discount that they did give, because they locked in a long-term customer. So the challenge is to shift from short-term to long-term and get both sides to think about what the real value of the long-term relationship is and the losses that will be triggered if the relationship is lost.
Yeah. And on a tactical level, you would use things like mirroring, labeling, saying,
Yes.
hey, it seems like we have a value situation here, or the value is not where you need it to be, or similar things that you would say, or any other,
Yeah,
like
or
really tactical things that when hey, we need to cut the price. Chris, we need to cut the price. We need to do something here. So what else would you...
Well, labels are usually the best, because labels land the best. It's either going to be a label or a question. But if I want them to think about what it's going to cost them to replace me, I'm going to actually, some people call this reverse psychology, but I would just say, it seems like it's pretty easy to replace me. You're not threatening to quit, but you're making them think about what happens if they either drive you away or drive you out of business. Call out the elephant in the room. Find out if it is easy to replace you.
Yeah.
It isn't. But gently. Seems like it must be pretty easy to replace us. That doesn't back them into a corner. It makes them think in a non-accusatory way and consider the fallout. They are not going to tell you it is if it isn't. They're just not going to. They're going to hesitate. They'd get a tremendous advantage if they would just go, yeah, it is. But they're not going to. How do you know that's going to work in the big conversation? It gets back to what we were talking about earlier. Got to learn to call out those kind of labels in everyday interactions.
Yeah. Use it, practice it.
Yeah.
Get comfortable with it. And again, the delivery, like your tone of voice, was like, seems like that, yeah, we are really easy to replace for you, right? Like, not like, hey, it's easy to replace us, right? Like you don't say it like that.
Well, don't even say right, because that's still fishing for the yes. Just throw it out as an observation. Seems like it's pretty easy to replace us.
Seems like it's pretty easy to replace us.
Yeah, and labels work magic.
Yeah.
Now, I know that because I've done it enough times. Nobody's going to know it until they've done it enough.
Yeah.
And then you've done it enough, you've practiced your tone of voice, then that really important conversation, your gut instinct is telling you it's going to work.
To that, it reminds me of a Chris Voss quote. I think I wrote it down somewhere here. Yeah, I think I have it in my head already. It says something like, it's not a sin to not get the deal, but it's a sin to take long time for getting
not getting the deal. Yeah,
for getting a bad deal.
Yeah, well, either not getting a deal or getting a bad deal.
Yeah.
And we're having a really important conversation with a couple of people that we're doing training for yesterday, because bad deals are expensive. $1 from a bad deal on the top line of revenue is not $1 in profit. At best, it's probably 20 cents. Because a bad deal is so difficult to implement that all the implementation is very expensive. And that dollar loses value right away. It drops by 50 cents right away, and it may drop to at least 20 cents. Now, $1 on a good deal really holds its value all the way through the organization. $1 on a good deal may be worth $1 on profit. And your boss is really focused on profit. Revenue's nice, but if the revenue is expensive, the profit ain't there, and they can't keep the lights on, they can't keep you employed. So you got to understand a bad deal is an expensive deal. No matter what the gross revenue is, it's going to be expensive to implement.
Yeah.
So it's a sin to take a long time to get a bad deal.
Like in the sales context, it's still easier said than done, because if you are a sales rep, you have a sales quota, and you better take the bad deal to have something to show. Hey, I've closed something. Maybe it's not good for the company, but it's good for you that you can at least close something, even if the deal is bad in the bigger picture for the company. So it's also a conflict of interest between the sales leader or the company and the sales rep, who maybe has the pressure to perform, and that's why he's willing to take maybe a bad deal than not a deal at all.
And that's everybody's reaction. And the reality of the universe is, the fewer deals that it takes you a long time to do, the more deals that it takes you a short time to do show up. Now, until you feel that, you don't believe it. You just don't believe it. And every successful business person talks about the moment they started saying no, their business accelerated. What were they saying no to? They were saying no to bad deals. Because the bad deals create a lot of drag, even on salespeople. A bad deal takes you at least twice as long, if not 5 times as long, to negotiate, to settle. More visits to the customer. A lot of your time, bigger chunks of your quarter. And to step out of that is to step into the unknown. And the other deals start to show up. And it's so many salespeople, so many business people, but you see it everywhere. As soon as I started saying no to stuff, our business picked up. We made more money. We had more deals. What were they saying no to? They were saying no to bad customers, bad deals, bad situations. And then suddenly good things started to show up. Now, when you're a salesperson and you've never done that before, you don't believe it. You're like, I don't care if it happened to him. That was their life. It ain't my life. Crossing that threshold is scary. Be willing to accept the hypothesis. So many business people, as soon as they started saying no to bad deals, they became more and more and more successful. You as a salesperson will too. But till you take that step, it just seems like it's a pit and there are tigers down there waiting to eat me as soon as I step into it.
Yeah. And what I say to my fellow salespeople colleagues, or in my sales trainings, because I'm doing sales trainings, is that everyone has 24 hours. You have 24 hours in your wallet. Maybe you work 8, 9, 10, 11 hours. But what do you do with those 8, 9, 10, 11 hours? Do you spend it on deals that are dragging through our sales pipeline from quarter to quarter? Or do you spend the time with elves? I think easy,
the halves, lucrative, and fun.
Halves and elves, right? Do you spend your time with easy, lucrative, and fun opportunities that maybe take less time to close? They are bigger, they are more profitable, they give you more energy back than you're trying to ride every horse, ride every dead horse even. You distribute your time equally across all the opportunities in your pipeline, and every minute you lose with those bad deals, you lose time that you could invest into opportunities that are much better qualified.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think that's the thing. There are 2 things I would like to discuss quickly at the end. I was wondering about 2 things when I was preparing for this interview, because you've been in a SWAT team, then you've been on a suicide hotline, then you changed to the FBI and doing the negotiation for the FBI.
I seem schizophrenic, huh?
now you're doing your own thing. You written the book that is sold 2.5 million times by now. I think 2.5 million times.
Globally, it's 5 million.
You are traveling around. You're sitting with me on this podcast. You have so many things going on. Where do you get the passion and the energy to still do the things you do on a daily basis?
Oh, it's just so much fun. I mean, it's just fun. I'm intrigued by it. We're constantly learning new application and new ideas. And so what we're doing is constantly evolving. Yeah, I've had people say, hey, you know, I fed your book into Chat GPT, and we're using it to guide all our negotiations, and we're making so much more money. And I'm okay with that because we've learned so much since the book came out. Between my core team, we come up with a new idea and new application and a new way to refine what we're doing probably every single month. So that's fun. We're still on the adventure. We're still discovering stuff. We're still finding new ways to apply it, finding new ways to help people. Over the last 3 days, I've got several new ideas of how to make our methodology better. And so if it was stale, if it was written in ink, I was a very big fan of Jim Camp and his book, Start With No. Mm-hmm. Jim was a friend, worked with Jim when I was with the FBI and afterwards. Jim wouldn't change a word. He felt his methodology was written in stone. And even if he thought of a more evolved application, he wouldn't even allow it to be more evolved. It had to stay the same. And it was very frustrating for the people that worked for him and his clients. And then, of course, if it never changes, if I talked to you last year, why do I got to talk to you this year? But we're constantly discovering this stuff. The reason for the companion book, Jonathan Smith brought a couple of ideas to us, and I thought, oh, man, we've actually been doing that for a while, but I didn't know what we were doing, which meant I didn't know how to explain how to do it. And so Jonathan cleared up some application of empathy for us because of an idea that he threw out. So that was new. So it's all of it is a new adventure. It's fun, and we're helping more people constantly make more money. But making money is the secondary benefit. Mm-hmm. Actually enjoying life more is the primary benefit. And then as a result, you make more money.
I 100%, if you say it, I 100% believe you saying that you have fun, because it seems like you have genuinely fun doing this.
It's fun, yeah.
I think this is really, if you have achieved in your stage of life something, hey, I'm really like to do what I do, that's the ultimate goal, right?
Yeah, people ask me what I do for fun. I am everything that I do for fun. Yeah. Where do you go on vacation? What do you do to get away? I don't got to get away. I'm having a ball. You know, my job doesn't suck the life out of me. I have purpose. There are a lot of people, you know, they're working in companies, deliver great service, but there's no purpose to it. And I'll use the example of toilet paper. And there's a business philosophy that, take over a company that's not sexy and make it really profitable and make a lot of money. Cool. Toilet paper, pencils. You can't get excited. We distribute toilet paper. So they need a vacation. They got to go skiing in Austria to get away. I don't got it. I'll go skiing in Austria while I'm there for a conference. Yeah. So I don't have to get away from my life. I love my life.
Yeah. To the point of purpose, and that's actually the last question I wanted to ask you. Maybe it closes also the circle. I want to steal the question a little bit from Jay from the podcast, but I'm curious how you will respond to that, or your answer is. You said to Jay that the purpose that you have is really kind of making the world a better place. I think something in that context you said. Yeah, I'm wondering how negotiation plays a role for you to making the world a better place.
Because the world's problems are really solved by business. What do I mean by that? I'm reading the book Chip Wars about the rise of the semiconductor industry, principally in Southeast Asia. And there's a great line in there, and I say the U.S. military lost the war in Vietnam, and the chip industry won the peace. Mm. Governments don't win the peace. And you could easily argue that they don't actually win wars. Maybe the other side just lost more than they did. Everybody loses in a war. But nobody wins the peace. And so once the U.S. government got out of the way, we got to fight communism. And all these countries can't allow the spread of communism. And there's a big fear. And, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people died as a result. And the countries that were looking at communism is because the life was so bad, they're like, why not go with the communists? Because as of right now, I'm living in poverty, in squalor. And in many cases, our alternatives, especially for women in Southeast Asia, you stay on a family farm in squalor or you might get sold into human trafficking because it was the only option. So they started the chip industry, and now they got factories. And from the Western Standard, these are sweatshops, these factories, long hours. Well, the long hours in a factory beats starving to death. And slowly the economy improved and it got better. And you go to Vietnam now, and they got a thriving economy. The South is very entrepreneurial. The North is very industrial. They're working together to make phenomenal things happen. Once these governments got out of the way, and the chip industry and other industries collaborated and started bringing people better lives. So better negotiations create better outcomes, and capitalism is the ism that has lifted more people out of poverty than any other ism. Now, that doesn't mean it can't be better, but it's working better than anything else. And fundamental driver in capitalism in the marketplace is negotiation.
Mic drop. Really, I really believe that. Thanks for the explanation. So what's some of the new stuff that you guys have going on at Black Swan?
There's two things. The first thing that people can take advantage of right now, we just started this year something called the Black Swan Negotiation Community. Because there is a global community of people that want to negotiate with each other. The book is done very well globally. So it's sold in over 40 languages. And to me, that says there are a lot of people out there that want to negotiate with each other rather than against each other. So where do you go to practice on a regular basis, to talk to people that think like you, to get better at the skills? Well, we started this thing called the Black Swan Negotiation Community, and it's free. One of my people on my team likes to say it's free 99, but it's free. And so you go to our website, blackswanltd.com, BLACKSWANLTD.com, and you should see a pop-up right away asking you to join the community. And you can learn the skills online from us, take training courses. You should. You should take the masterclass. Masterclass is great. You should buy the book. But where do you go to practice? Especially if you're still not quite comfortable practicing in your real life. Well, you join the community and you go in there and you practice with each other. Sometimes the instructors are in there, but the real thing is for you to find the people that think like you do about this and practice with them. And it doesn't matter what your skill level is. I talk about this guy, Michael Perriente, all the time. Michael Perriente is an extremely successful defense attorney in the United States. When the pandemic started, Michael was going broke. And he was concerned he would have to shut down his law practice. He found Never Split the Difference. He found the master class. He started applying it in his work. He sent me a picture the other day of the Mercedes that he bought because of the skills. He's doing really well right now because even from your defense attorney, you want somebody that uses empathy with you. Why am I talking about Michael? Michael goes into the community twice a week to practice. He knows that the skills are perishable. He's very successful. He flew me from Vegas to Los Angeles a year ago on a private plane out of gratitude. Michael practices. He finds other people in the community to practice with twice a week. Doesn't cost anything. Got to get your practice in. So the Black Swan community is where you go to practice. And then in the first part of 26 of the upcoming year, two of my colleagues, Jonathan Smith and Derek Gaunt, we will be publishing the companion book to Never Split the Difference. And it's called Fight Less, Win More. Mm-hmm. And I'm doing the foreword to the book. In the introduction, I'm introducing Derek Gaunt, who's the head of coaching for the Black Swan Group. Derek and I have been together for over 20 years. I wouldn't be sitting in front of you here today if it wasn't for Derek Gaunt. He's been a partner. He's brilliant. Jonathan Smith is a business colleague. He's actually our EOS coach. Entrepreneurial Operating System, EOS, is how we run the company. Jonathan taught it to us. He's teaching us EOS in a pandemic, and we're teaching him negotiation. And he's like, how are you guys raising your prices in a pandemic? You know, how are you getting paid what you're worth? And we explained it to him. He decided he wanted to learn it. Now, besides teaching us EOS, Jonathan is also one of my trainers and my coaches. And he and Derek are superstars. So they're finally putting out a book. Again, it's a companion book to Never Split the Difference. If you've read Never Split the Difference, you should buy this book. If you haven't, and it'll be out in January. If you haven't read Never Split the Difference, then buy them both because they go together. It's like, you know, the right hand and the left hand. They work well together. So the two big things are join the community. Now, the book is not going to be out until January. Join the community, practice, get better, get ready for the book to come out.
We'll link down the Black Swan community in the show notes.
Perfect.
So everyone
join the community, get better.
We know negotiation is a perishable skill. We need to practice it. You can practice it in the community.
Yep.
And it was a pleasure meeting you here in New York.
Yeah, thank you guys for coming to New York. Came to my favorite city in the world. I got a lot of cities I like. I like this one the most.
Next time we meet you in Austria on the ski tracks.
I'd love it.
It was a pleasure. Thanks.
My pleasure.
Thanks.